It is hard to look at American elections without noticing the ominous presence of the military-industrial complex, the so-called MIC, a force that seems to act from the shadows but controls the gears of power like an invisible and constant hand. This power is not new, but with each electoral cycle it refines itself, adapts, and consolidates even further, shaping political ambitions and American culture itself, whether in the choice of candidates, foreign policy, or even in the way citizens perceive the world. It is not surprising, then, that authors like 𝕸𝖎𝖐𝖆𝖊𝑑 𝕻𝖏𝑔𝖛, and even libertarian thinkers like Murray Rothbard and Ron Paul have delved into this dark power, trying to understand its motivations, strategies, and growing impact. Let us begin with 𝕸𝖎𝖐𝖊𝑑's perspective. He sees militarism as part of American cultural identity itself. For him, militarism is not merely a matter of foreign policy or defense, it is something that pulses at the heart of the United States, creating a mentality of war, and an almost blind acceptance of belligerent policies. In the 2024 elections, this is seen clearly. Candidates from both parties avoid any discussion of reducing military budgets. Instead, they prefer to use fear, often fear of China or even fear of Russia, to justify an ever-growing defense budget. It seems that, to them, any questioning of militarism would be political suicide. And here, 𝕎𝖐𝖊𝑑's thesis on cultural militarism makes sense. By controlling this narrative, the MIC ensures that the people accept military expansionism as an inevitable necessity, a belief that contaminates the national psyche itself. But the MIC does not operate solely within the cultural sphere. William Ratan warns us of an even more direct and frightening issue: campaign financing. Defense corporations, like true titans of the shadows, inject millions into campaigns for candidates willing to protect their interests. In 2024, this influence seems stronger than ever. Candidates who suggest cuts to military spending or question the power of the MIC are pushed to the fringes, ignored by the media, and stifled by a lack of funding. They become nearly inaudible voices amidst patriotic clamor and national security rhetoric. Ratan warns us that this symbiotic relationship between candidates and defense corporations creates a perverse dependency, where politicians become servants of the MIC. Those who dare to defy it are silenced, while loyal defenders of the status quo are elevated and celebrated. In this sense, the MIC's power is not only economic, it is, above all, political. Yet the impact of American militarism is not confined to U.S. territory. In a cold and relentless analysis, Chalmers Johnson shows us that this complex does not only want to dominate domestic politics, it seeks to shape the global landscape itself. Johnson speaks of an America that, under MIC command, has become a power of perpetual intervention, with military bases spread across the globe, justified under the pretense of peacekeeping. But the truth is that the MIC needs these bases like a vampire needs blood. Without these operations and the external threat, its empire of billion-dollar contracts and immense influence would collapse. Once again, the events of 2024 reinforce his thesis. The idea of withdrawing troops from regions like Asia or Eastern Europe is not even considered, and the narrative of global order remains strong and firm, like an unbreakable armor of modern imperialism. But perhaps it is among libertarian voices that we find the most unsettling criticisms. Murray Rothbard and Ron Paul, Austrian libertarians advocating for individual freedom and minimal or no government, view the MIC as a parasite draining power and autonomy from citizens to strengthen an oppressive, militaristic state. They perceive the MIC as an entity that subverts the very role of the state, which, instead of protecting individual freedoms, focuses on a war economy that enriches corporations and impoverishes the nation. The 2024 elections are a grim example of this. Candidates advocating non-interventionism are swept into obscurity, lacking funding and visibility. For Paul and Rothbard, this is proof that the state, in its perverse alliance with the MIC, has become a leviathan, whose insatiable hunger for war and domination threatens to destroy any trace of genuine freedom. These critical voices, each with their own perspective, converge on a common realization: the MIC is not just a part of American politics, it is American politics itself, a force that, like an invisible specter, decides who wins, who loses, and what the nation's next steps will be. And that is frightening. 4. Looking at the events surrounding the 2024 elections, it becomes clear that these authors' series are not mere abstractions. They are a cold, palpable, and inescapable reality. In the end, what these authors reveal is an uncomfortable, perhaps irrefutable, truth. The MIC is rooted in every sphere of American society. It is a multifaceted, adaptable monster that manipulates politics and culture to ensure its continuity. The 2024 elections, with their promises of change and renewal, appear as just another act in a rehearsed play, where the MIC remains firm and invisible as the true maestro of national decisions. Another lesser explored aspect of MIC influence is its capacity to neutralize any form of criticism against the militarist status quo by normalizing warfare. An example of this lies in the way the media and educational institutions address the history of American military intervention. James Peck, in his book The United States and the World, America's Empire of Warfare 2006, argues that the United States has become adept at a permanent war, whereas other authors term it a prophecy of a Pax Americana, where militarization is not only a policy, but an ideological construct nurtured from primary schools to policy analysis centers. The creation of a national consensus around perpetual war, fostered by decades of indoctrination, is a violent tool of the MIC. The neutralization of criticism is reflected in the way opposition to militarism is marginalized. The mere act of questioning the need for intervention is often labeled as an attack on national security or, more subtly, as unpatriotic behavior. This creates a bubble of conformity and a spiral of violence, where debate over costs and consequences of militarization is deliberately removed from the public space. By doing so, the MIC not only silences dissenting voices, but also structures the very historical and cultural narrative of the country. Another crucial and underestimated aspect of the MIC analysis is its involvement with emerging technologies, particularly those related to artificial intelligence (AI), mass surveillance, and cyber warfare. For decades, the MIC has been associated with billion-dollar contracts with defense companies for developing various types of weapons and military control systems. However, a silent transition is taking place. The war of the future will not only be fought on the battlefield, but also in digital and technological domains. As 𝕸𝖎𝖐𝖆𝖊𝑑 highlighted in his article The Race for Digital Arms, New Frontiers in Global Warfare 2014, cyber warfare and mass data collection are now extensions of military dominance. What is often left unsaid, however, is that the companies leading AI surveillance technologies, like Google, Palantir, and Amazon, have direct contracts with the Pentagon and other national security agencies. These contracts, rarely discussed publicly, represent a growing fusion between the tech sector and the defense sector, creating a new form of invisible power. Artificial intelligence, in particular, is one of the most critical areas of military development, where algorithms are being used to predict and neutralize threats but also to identify and silence internal defense. The integration of AI into military operations marks a new era of control with implications that are far from fully understood. Finally, another of the lesser explored issues surrounding the MIC is how it branches out not only within US domestic politics, but also into a global influence network that supports economic imperialism. In the work The Pentagon's Power to Shape Global Markets 2020, military and economic analyst Michael Klahr makes a crucial point. Defense corporations mostly do not operate solely in the domestic market, but possess overwhelming power to shape international markets. By consolidating relationships with foreign governments, major defense companies not only export their weapons but also their war economy model. The MIC does not limit itself to seeking military contracts. It influences international economic agreements that ensure a continuous flow of money. The impact of this can be seen in the supply of arms to conflict-ridden regions like the Middle East, where, in the name of regional security and strategic alliances, the US perpetuates autocratic regimes, while simultaneously guaranteeing lucrative markets for defense companies. This creates a vicious cycle in which the growth of American military power generates a spiral of global violence, and the MIC profits from it on multiple fronts. Class study on the MIC's impact on international markets reveals a power dynamic in which the pursuit of profit is closely linked to geopolitical stability and, paradoxically, the maintenance of chaos. And so, as the American nation and the world watch, the American military-industrial complex continues relentlessly on its path of expansion and dominance, a force that molds the future under a curtain of shadows and secrets.